Now we are staring with Eclipse Moon series. Chapter 585 to 586, Encirclement and Suppression of Eclipse Moon. The alien team in Days City never thought that they came to Tianhai City with the confidence of winning, intending to plunder. But not only did they get nothing, they even lost their lives here. Zhang Yi ordered everyone to eliminate all evil and kill all the enemies who came to attack, to prevent them from spreading Zhang Yi's true strength and causing trouble for Zhang Yi. And the victory of this battle so easily also made the people of Tianhai City more united, and everyone in the three major bases was convinced by Zhang Yi. Xing Tian asked at this time, if the Jiangnan district asks, how will we answer? How else can we answer? Just say that with the concerted efforts of all forces in our Tianhai City, all the invading enemies were wiped out. Zhang Yi smiled. Xing Tian scratched his head. I'm worried that they will doubt it. After all, according to the strength on paper, we can't win so easily. Zhang Yi shook his head. These things don't need to be told to them too clearly. We are victims, and there is no problem with self-defense counterattack. When the Jiangnan district formed the Superpower Federation, it announced this publicly, and we have their letters to prove that they were the first to attack. Why should the victims explain? As for why we won so easily, that's easier to explain. The battlefield is changing rapidly, and nothing is unexpected. Let them guess. Anyway, the attention of the Jiangnan district is now on Linhai City, and they have no time to care about what happened here. Zhang Yi is not afraid of accidents. Everyone took the order and went to search the surrounding areas carefully to prevent any fish from slipping through the net. In fact, this approach is completely for insurance and does not make much sense, because the strong aliens in Days City were basically killed by Zhang Yi in one move. The rest were scared and were killed by the aliens in Tianhai City. Finally, Zhang Yi asked Fatty Su to use the accumulated snow to fill the huge pit he created. The scene was as quiet as before, and there was not even a trace of blood on the white snow. It was as if nothing had happened. Just when the war in Tianhai City ended, a more dangerous and more powerful war also began in Linhai City, not far away. This war was commanded by the Jiangnan District Operation Command Center. A total of 10 alien organizations were dispatched, and the headquarters provided all-round assistance. The most important thing is the Nebula System of China, which can guide them and monitor the movements of Erosion Moon from the universe. At this time, in a shopping mall building, 13 people from Eclipse Moon were enjoying food in a warehouse. 2 bodies were lying next to the open door, and the blood was still steaming, but it quickly cooled down. These 2 people were a couple. After the end of the world came, they occupied this warehouse and lived until now. Originally, they thought they could survive until the end of the Doomsday, but they never thought that they would fall under the knife of foreigners. The man wearing a gray newsboy cap and a gray tight vest picked from the shelves and found a can of beef, with a happy smile on his face. He just exerted a little force with his right hand, and a ball of flame rose up, melting the frost on the surface of the can. Pop! The can was heated and bounced open when he squeezed it hard. The man in the newsboy cap did not eat it himself, but turned around and handed it to the girl in the thick red winter clothes behind him. Then he threw the cans to other people in the room one by one. A warrior with a stern face and a lazy look, a gangster holding a black metal baseball bat, a gentle middle-aged man with glasses, a serious expression, and a slicked back hair. After everyone took the cans, they all used their own methods to open the cans. A short-haired boy who looked like a high school student squatted on the ground with a smile and started to set up a pot and light a fire. While the short-haired boy was cooking, the middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses, Jinguji Saikairo, looked at the newsboy cap and said in a hoarse voice, "We have killed so many people here, and the people sent by the Jiangnan district to hunt us down will soon arrive. Team leader, what do you think? It will be very dangerous for us to continue fighting with them." When the man in the gray newsboy cap, the leader of the Eclipse group, Fengguangyuan Jin, heard this, he just smiled easily, but his smile always gave people a sense of evil charm. He pointed at Jinguji with a confident and flamboyant move. "You came just in time. If we don't let them see the strength of our Eclipse group, how can they cooperate with us obediently?" Jinguji crossed his arms, with a look of disgust on his face. You are always like this, you like adventure. Although there is Takeuchi, the feeling of walking on a tightrope is really not pleasant. Feng Guangyuan smiled and walked to the witch Takeuchi Mayumi in the team, and then sat on a cardboard box. But now, this is the most beneficial approach for us, isn't it? Don't worry, the Jiangnan region can't use all its strength to deal with us. As far as I know, they have a lot of troubles in their region, enough to make them exhausted. As long as we give them a little painful lesson, let them know that we are not easy to mess with, we will have a chance to negotiate. Feng Guangyuan smiled and stretched out his hand, making a small gesture with his thumb and index finger. Just give them a little neon shock, that's enough. Jinguji pushed his glasses, feeling helpless about Feng Guangyuan's adventurous spirit. He looked at Mayumi Takeuchi, who was quietly eating canned beef next to Feng Guangyuan. Takeuchi, let's start today's divination. But Takeuchi turned a deaf ear. Feng Guangyuan smiled, stretched out his hand, and touched her head. Mayumi, start. Takeuchi nodded obediently. She put down the canned beef in her hand, took off her gloves, revealing a pair of extremely white hands. Then she slowly inserted her right hand into her temple. The next moment, she actually took out a scroll from her head. This scene made everyone at the scene brighten their eyes. Even the short-haired boy who was cooking was full of joy. Here I come. I like watching Mayumi's divination the most. Mayumi Takeuchi unfolded the scroll on the ground, and then took out a bottle of red liquid from her bosom. Due to her body temperature, the liquid did not freeze. She unscrewed the lid, and a faint smell of blood escaped into the air. Takeuchi's right hand paused in the air for a moment, and a strange force began to gather in her palm, and finally turned into a thin brush. It was like a long bamboo stick, with a naked little ghost holding a bamboo and chewing it at the end. Takeuchi's expression became solemn, and her eyes began to be stained with a hazy color. Then, she dipped the brush in red fuel, and then wrote on the scroll extremely quickly. A moment later, the long scroll was actually filled with red words, and a strange glow emanated from the blood words. Chapter 587 to 588, A Certain Scientific Railgun. After the divination, Mayumi Takeuchi put away the pen in her hand, but after doing all this, she looked a little weak. Some people hurried over to look at the fortune, while others pretended to be indifferent, but their eyes still glanced over here involuntarily. As the boss, Feng Guangyuan Jin picked up the scroll and read it carefully. His eyes became brighter and brighter, and the arc of his mouth became bigger and bigger. Their people are coming, and there are a lot of people, Jinguji said with a look of disgust. Some of the others looked calm, while others looked excited. Feng Guangyuan looked up at everyone and began to assign tasks one by one. Ryuzawa and my wife, you two go to the southeast. As a couple, Takashi Takizawa and my wife Nanako nodded and immediately took their weapons and left the warehouse. Nobunaga, you go to the west. The enemies there are suitable for you. The samurai Tsukamoto Nobunaga looked lazy, said nothing, just picked up his samurai sword and left silently. De Gonghui, go east. Your fortune is there today. De Gonghui Yanjin, a 2-meter-tall, bear-like black-faced man, also walked out carrying a cello case. Feng Guangyuan assigned tasks to his subordinates according to the divination in the Takeuchi scroll. Soon, more than half of the people in the room were gone. The short-haired high school student was called Shishimono Satoru. He was completely unaware of these things and just cooked his lunch with a smile. Feng Guangyuan came to him and squatted down. He took out a silver spoon from his arms and scooped a mouthful of soup from the pot into his mouth. Then he showed an expression of enjoyment on his face. It tastes really good. I can have a full meal again. I don't know if he was talking about the food or the next battle. Linhai City. Although the people from the Jiangnan regional headquarters had not arrived, they had locked the area where the Eclipse moon was located through satellite positioning. On the side of the operations department, Minister Tu Yunlai was personally responsible for commanding the operations. However, it is said to be commanding, but in fact it is more of an observation. Because the Jiangnan Superpower Federation has just been established, the alien forces in the outer city will not completely obey their orders. According to the intelligence of the operations department, the 10 alien teams have formed a siege from all directions and gradually began to tighten. Southeast direction. The force coming here is the Prung-Jello organization in Hang City. He brought 20 elite men with him, 6 of whom are aliens with good strength. Among the remaining people, there are also elite players who are proficient in sniping, reconnaissance, and blasting. When the 10 forces took action, they had an agreement to encircle and suppress Eclipse from different directions. No one would be careless about the organization from Neon. After all, it was a powerful organization that destroyed all the forces in a city. However, no one thought that their operation would fail this time. They have a geographical advantage and have satellite positioning guidance from the Jiangnan region. But the other party is in a foreign land, like a headless fly. In terms of numbers, they are dozens of times the Eclipse organization. Moreover, each organization is the top in its own city area. Even if they use the number of people to pile up, they can pile that organization to death. At least, that's what Peng Jiao thought. The alien organization in Hang braved the snow and moved forward cautiously. They kept in touch with other forces at any time through the communication equipment. I'm Peng Jiao. We've arrived near the designated area. The voices of other people soon came from the other side. We've also reached the edge of the designated area. We're almost there, 3 minutes. Very good. Wait until everyone arrives at the designated location, and then we'll work together to narrow the encirclement. Don't underestimate the enemy, and avoid acting on your own. Hee, is there any need to say this? No one who can survive until now is a reckless person. Peng Jiao ended the communication and did not rush to the target area. But just when he was about to let the scouts investigate the nearby terrain first, his pupils shrank suddenly, because he saw a person walking slowly from the street in the city ahead. A man with slightly long hair and wearing a black combat uniform. One person? Peng Jiao was a little surprised, and his nerves were a little tense. He immediately ordered his men to prepare for battle. At the same time, he reported the matter on the communication channel. This is Peng Jiao. We have encountered an enemy. There is only one person. Only one person? Aren't there 13 of them? Be careful. There may be others hiding in the dark. See what he is going to do? When Peng Jiao was about to continue communicating, he suddenly heard a sharp electric sound in his ears, which made his ears hurt. Peng Jiao frowned and was about to curse, but he saw that the man stopped hundreds of meters away. His left hand was even leisurely in his pocket, looking at this side with an indifferent face. But he took out a coin with his right hand and placed it between his thumb and index finger. A white electric light suddenly burst out from his body. The coin, as a shell of the super-electromagnetic cannon, penetrated the space and shot at the people of Hang. The speed of lightning was too fast, and the people did not expect him to attack suddenly. Immediately, one of the aliens was pierced through the chest. A large burnt hole appeared in his chest, and his eyes were full of incredible expressions, and he fell straight down. He actually dared to take the initiative to attack. Peng Jiao never thought that they were hunters, and the other party was the prey. But how dare the prey take the initiative to show its claws to the hunter? Damn Japanese, kill him. No matter how good Peng Jiao's temper was, he could not tolerate the other party killing his men in front of him. He roared, and his whole body suddenly swelled up rapidly, and the golden light enveloped his body. The muscles were expanding, the body was rising, and he suddenly turned into a golden Buddha more than 4 meters high. Hang City Buddha Core. Vajra indestructible Peng Jiao. Although they were caught off guard, they were clearly in a numerical advantage. In addition, with Delta-level Peng Jiao in charge, they were not afraid of Takizawa Takashi, who came alone. The advantage is mine. Peng Jiao and others thought. Just as the group of people activated their abilities and planned to kill Takizawa Takashi, a melodious music suddenly came from a distance. The sound was deep and rich, somewhat similar to the sound of a flute. The sound floated through the concrete buildings of the city and came to the crowd of aliens in Hang City. The scene in front of everyone was strangely distorted. The light began to become mixed, as if countless colorful butterflies were flying in front of their eyes, and the whole world became distorted. Their heads began to feel dizzy, and they didn't know where to put their hands and feet. Peng Jialua shouted angrily, "It's a psychic ability user. Block your ears." But the moment the music sounded, Takizawa Takashi had raised his hands, with 8 coins between his fingers, and pointed in this direction. The super electromagnetic gun caused frantic silver lightning in the air. The surging electric currents shot out with the coins, drawing 8 silver lightning tracks in the air. Chapter 589 to 590, Tide Tiger. The encounter on Peng Jialua's side attracted the attention of the other 9 forces. The aliens in Hang City were attacked? They are so unlucky. It seems that someone is trying to break out of them. Should we go over to support them? Someone asked in the communication channel. The call fell into silence for a while. After a long time, someone said faintly, "Why don't we go over and take a look?" But no one responded to him. The reward for this mission is very generous, and even the one with the greatest merit can take over the entire Linhai City. The reward is so much, but there are 10 forces involved, and they are in a naked competition with each other. If Peng Jialua's people can fight to the death with the Eclipse Moon Group and consume part of the Eclipse Moon Group's strength, it will definitely be good news for others. However, their thoughts soon changed. In Yunzhou City, the team led by Li Tianlong was still on standby, hesitating when to go over to support Peng Jialua. Very abruptly, a sound of breaking through the air came from the sky. Li Tianlong looked up suddenly and saw a shadow swooping down from the high-rise building where they were hiding. Silver blade flashed in the air, illuminating the gloomy area. Tsukamoto Nobunaga rushed into the crowd several times, and before everyone could react, 5 people had been chopped to pieces. Li Tianlong was dumbfounded. How is it possible? He was not surprised by the strength of the samurai, but the actions of the other party, as if they knew they were here. However, they obviously had satellite support from the Jiangnan region, and their intelligence was ahead of the other party. Why on earth were they found by the other party first? Not only them, but in just a few minutes, almost every alien force was attacked by Eclipse Moon. They were hiding well and were preparing to launch a collective sprint at a signal. But every step they took seemed to be seen through by the other party, which put them in a passive state. In the Combat Command Center of the Jiangnan Region Headquarters, Tu Yunlai stared at the screen with his eagle-like sharp eyes. He could see these pictures through the communicators carried by the 10 major alien organizations. Even he did not expect that they were beaten first. How could this happen? Did we leak the news? But immediately, Tu Yunlai denied this idea. Impossible. The headquarters is the only place that can accurately determine the location of each force. His eyes wandered around the combat center, scanning every staff member on the scene. Then he shook his head and denied this idea again. The security level of the command center is the highest. Every message sent here will be intercepted, and no one can pass on information to them across the security network. Then it should be some kind of superpower. Exploration-type superpowers? Can it cover such a large area? Tu Yunlia's eyes became sharper and sharper, and he suddenly felt that this incident was becoming a little tricky. The battle in Linhai City has already begun. The sudden situation caught everyone off guard. The 10 major forces were a little panicked at first, and they lost some of their combat power due to the surprise attack. But after all, they are also powerful and domineering. Soon they stabilized their position. Especially when they found that they were not the entire Eclipse group, but only 1 or 2 people, they began to feel relieved. Especially in the east of the city. The 2 teams of Li Guiqiang from Bakung and Meng Shucheng from Sixing joined forces to fight against the enemy. Their opponent was only a man in a suit, as strong as a bear, carrying a cello case. Just one person? Li Guiqiang frowned. He wondered if these Japanese people had a problem with their brains. Didn't they see that there were about 40 to 50 people? From the 2 families on his side, it would be almost like he was going to die alone. Kill. Li Guiqiang didn't say much nonsense. There was no possibility of peace talks between the 2 sides, and he didn't understand what the other party was saying. Immediately, 10 sharpshooters came out, holding sniper rifles and aiming at Dagonghui Yanjin and started shooting. And they used high-energy bullets that the Jiangnan district had approved for them to use against aliens. Dagonghui Yanjin looked at the bullets they fired, but didn't dodge at all. Instead, He silently took off his suit and reached out to open the cello case. Crackles. The bullets fell on him, tearing his clothes, but didn't penetrate his skin. Instead, the dark steel-forged muscles were revealed. So it's a reinforcement-type alien, Meng Shucheng said lightly. High-energy bullets are more powerful than armor-piercing bullets. Even aliens who are shot are in danger of death. But among aliens, reinforcement-type aliens are pure monsters. Their abilities are not fancy, but simply strengthen their basic physical abilities. Because that is a physical mutation. It allows their bodies to reach the level of tanks and even fortresses, and they are immune to bullets and even small thermal weapons. Li Guiqiang looked at Meng Shucheng with a teasing smile on his face. Strengthening mutants, isn't that just right? Meng Shucheng's narrow eyes were also filled with smiles under his long hair. It's just right, because both of them are strong strengthening mutants. Plus many subordinates, more than 50 people against one person. How can they lose? But at this time, Degongxiang Yanjin had taken something out of the cello case. It was a strange-shaped spear, more than 3 meters long when assembled, but the spearhead was flat, like the wings of a dragonfly. Degongxiang Yanjin held the dragonfly, looked at the mutants of the two forces, and muttered in neon. Mayumi's prediction is really accurate. Meng Shucheng and Li Guiqiang have already activated their own supernatural powers. Meng Shucheng's body was shrouded in a hazy black light, and his long hair spread rapidly, even wrapping up his body. Each strand of black hair flashed with a sharp light, and each strand of hair was sharper than the sharpest knife, and could cut gold and jade. Li Guiqiang took out 2 heavy black iron crutches from behind, and put them in front of him, first doing defense, and then ready to attack at any time. Go, kill him. Dozens of aliens quickly surrounded Degonghui Yanjin. Various means began to greet him. The 2 leader-level aliens were the main attackers, attacking him one after another. However, the iron tower in the middle faced the airtight attack, and just waved the dragonfly cutter in his hand with a cold look. A hurricane began to whistle, covering his whole body. When the hurricane stopped, he turned into a 3-meter-tall, yellow-brown spotted, peerless monster. Degonghui Yanjin, Orc-type ability user, mythical monster, Chaohu. Holding the huge dragonfly cutter in his hand, his brown vertical pupils swept all the aliens around him. Li Guiqiang and Meng Shucheng attacked from both sides, but he just made a simple horizontal slash, drawing a circle with himself as the center. The turquoise blade light swept through the air, and a beautiful arc appeared. 2 powerful Delta-level enhanced aliens were suddenly split into 2 on the way forward, with the upper and lower bodies separated directly. Chapter 614, Kamaitachi. After the absolute gap in level appeared in the battle between aliens, the number of people could no longer make up for it. The leaders of the 2 major forces, Li Guiqiang and Meng Shucheng, did not expect that their well-trained bodies could not block the casual knife of the Great Works Hall Yanjin. It can't even be said that they blocked it because they didn't even have time to react, and they were cut in half. The martial arts in the world are indestructible. Only speed can't be broken. It wasn't until their bodies fell to the ground that the other men around them realized what had happened. Ah! The extremely painful wails of Meng Shucheng and Li Guiqiang were heard in the air. This kind of execution is 10,000 times more painful than killing them directly. Because they are all strengthening aliens with tenacious vitality. Even if they were cut in half, they didn't die immediately despite the extremely cold temperature. But everyone understands that their death is only a matter of time, and the next step is to torture time. The dozens of aliens and elite warriors who surrounded the Great Works Hall Yanjin were all scared, and even lost the courage to attack. However, the Great Works Hall Yanjin did not intend to stop. Since you're here, don't leave. He rushed in one direction like a hurricane, and the huge dragonfly in his hand cut people like a hot knife cutting butter. That kind of incomparably powerful force, when facing the aliens below the Delta level, even if they are wearing combat uniforms, they are completely unable to resist. One-sided, overwhelming massacre. Such a scene was seen clearly by Tu Yunlai at the Combat Command Center. The staff of the entire center were shocked by this scene and didn't know what to do. The joint army of the two major forces in the outer city was actually killed by one enemy, like cutting melons and vegetables. Tu Yunlia's eyes became more and more solemn. At least they must be at the level of elite members of the investigation team, or even above the level of deputy captains. These monsters, no wonder they can run rampant in Kanto, leaving the Izumo organization helpless against them. The battle in the Great Workshop Yenjin was resolved very quickly. More than 50 people, in the end there was no one left. Those who came here are all the elites of the outer city forces. Nearly half of them are aliens. After killing them, Dagonkai Yenjin happily devoured their alien essence. Although at his level, the improvement he could get from devouring lower-level aliens would not be too great, but quantity could make up for the lack of quality. What a delicious enjoyment! Dagonkai Yenjin showed an endless smile at the corner of his mouth. I really hope that the Jiangnan district can send more food over. It's best to have higher quality food. On the Hang side, Peng Jalua's people encountered Takashi Takizawa and Nanako Agatsuma. A team of 20 aliens faced off against a duo using a super electromagnetic gun and phantom sound, but the battle turned out to be one-sided. Nanako Agatsuma hid in the dark and used the shakuhachi in her hand to attack with music. Peng Jalua immediately ordered everyone to close their auditory systems to avoid being disturbed. But in this way, the communication between them was lost, and Peng Jalua quickly killed 8 people. And then, when the others wanted to fight back against Peng Jalua, they found that strange changes had occurred inside their bodies. It's like a drowning person, always feeling that there is a liquid-like force surging in his internal organs. Peng Jalua noticed this for the first time and was shocked. That kind of phantom sound attack can penetrate the defense and reach the body directly. And it's not a simple illusion attack. When he realized all this, it was too late. The bodies of 2 aliens were like balloons filled with water. After a strange expansion, they burst directly with a puff. Colorful liquids burst everywhere. Peng Jalua also felt the power of that force and hurriedly used his supernatural power to protect his body. But on the one hand, they need to withstand Nanako Agatsuma's musical attack. On the other hand, Takizawa Takashi is watching covetously not far away. Obviously, they're the side with more people, but they seem to be surrounded. Peng Jalua refused to sit and wait for death. His Vajra indestructibility is a powerful ability that combines offense and defense. Nanako Agatsuma's little tricks can't kill him. He saw that Takizawa Takashi's ability was a means of long-range combat, so he had to close the distance to fight. As long as Takizawa Takashi was killed quickly, the ability users in the dark would not be a problem. With this in mind, his golden Buddha body burst into a more dazzling light, and suddenly burst out, rushing straight towards Takizawa Takashi. Takizawa Takashi frowned, and aimed the super electromagnetic cannon in his hand at Peng Jalua and fired continuously. Peng Jalua did not dodge, and in order to reach Takizawa Takashi as quickly as possible, he chose to use his body to resist. The golden light enveloped his whole body, and coins that were comparable to cannonballs shot at him with electric light, causing his muscles to dent. Then his flesh and blood shattered, and the coins were deeply embedded in his body. However, his defense was not completely broken. Relying on his strong physical strength, he clamped those coins abruptly, and he only suffered superficial injuries. In a matter of seconds, Peng Jalua rushed to Takizawa Takashi's side, and then hit his head with a golden fist. Takizawa Takashi's pupils shrank, his arms covered with lightning, and he quickly blocked himself. Boom! This blow directly blasted Takizawa Takashi hundreds of meters away. Nanako Agatsuma also noticed Peng Jalua's strength, and the sound of the shakuhachi in the air became more urgent. And Peng Jalua finally felt that something was flying in the air, screaming and attacking his body. That was Nanako Agatsuma's ability, Kamaitachi. It can make people hallucinate through phantom sound attacks. It can also use the method of sound wave resonance to directly attack a person's internal organs and make them explode from the inside of the body. Peng Jalua's Vajra Indestructible is both offensive and defensive, especially the defense is extremely strong, comparable to a chariot. But no matter how tough a man is, his internal organs are just as fragile. Peng Jialua, who was attacking Takizawa Takashi with all his strength, had no way to defend against the attack of Kamaitachi. With a muffled groan, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. But now, no one can come to help him. His men were all killed by the duo in just a few moments. In the battle between aliens, when the level gap is too large, the number is really meaningless. Takizawa Takashi walked out of the smoke and dust. One of his arms had been obviously twisted. He himself was a little surprised because the opponent in front of him was obviously more difficult to deal with than he imagined. He couldn't help but think of Mayumi Takeuchi's prophecy. His action this time was Xiaoji. The task can be completed, but it will not be too smooth. How unlucky I am today, he muttered to himself. However, the next moment, Peng Jialua's attack came to him again. Chapter 593 to 594, Total Annihilation. In Hang City, the indestructible Peng Jialua was eventually killed by 2 members of the Eclipse group. His strength was considered top among the 10 forces that came. But he was fighting 1 against 2, and he was ultimately unable to face the attack of opponents of the same level. In the end, during the battle with Takizawa Takashi, Nanako Miyazuma successfully attacked with Kamaitachi and pierced his heart. Watching his huge golden body fall down, Takizawa Takashi also breathed a sigh of relief. It was almost an accident. A burst of laughter suddenly came from the air. Takizawa Takashi raised his head and saw Nanako Miyazuma riding the wind and slowly flying towards him. After landing, she looked at Peng Jialua with a smug look on her face. Without my help, it would be difficult for you to deal with this big guy. So, let him give it to me. Takizawa Takashi snorted. If it was 1-on-1, I could definitely beat him. It's just that he has too many helpers, which wasted a lot of my energy, but Nanako Miyazuma exposed him mercilessly. Forget it. His ability is to restrain you, but I am the one who restrains him. So, I am the main force in this operation. Takizawa Takashi looked very ugly, but he was powerless to refute, because it was indeed the case in reality. If the superpower is restrained, it may not even be able to exert half of its strength. Nanako Agatsuma ignored his expression and absorbed Peng Jialua's ability on her own. In the Combat Command Center of Blizzard City, the cameras in the screen disappeared 1 by 1 and turned into snowflakes. As the battle continued, the equipment they used to observe the situation on the scene was also damaged 1 by 1. But Tu Yunlai did not see them gain the upper hand in any battlefield. Instead, within less than 5 minutes of the start of the war, 3 forces were completely wiped out. Tu Yunlai still looked at all this indifferently without saying a word. The staff of the Combat Command Center quickly used the remaining cameras to record all the information of the Eclipse group members and then compiled them into a book. An hour later, the last force also lost contact. An observer turned around and reported the news to Tu Yunlai. Tu Yunlai just said coldly, "I know." There was no expression on his face, but the fluctuation in his eyes could not be concealed. "Sort out the information immediately. I'm going to report to Zhu Shui." In the shopping mall, Feng Guangyuan only ate a little, then came to the window, put his hands in his pockets, and leisurely looked down at the city in front of him. Linhai City is not a big city in the southeastern coastal area of China, but it is quite prosperous. However, for Feng Guangyuan, who came from Tokyo, there is a unique charm here. It is the calm and heavy feeling from the continental plate. The Japanese have had a deep sense of crisis since 100 years ago. The instability of the island country has always made them dream of becoming a land country. The classic movie Neon Sinking is the best example. After the end of the world, the panic of being isolated on the sea island has become more and more serious. So much so that the radical landing faction like them began to grow and develop. And the Eclipse group is the most radical pioneer among this group of people. The door was suddenly pushed open, and the team members who had gone out to perform the mission came back one after another. Some of them looked relaxed, while others had minor injuries. The great engineer in Jean was still wearing the suit, sitting leisurely on a sofa. His calm expression showed how easy this mission was for him. The members of the Eclipse team all had smiles on their faces, talking about the opponents they had met and how they had dealt with them. At this time, a dragging sound was heard outside the door. Bang! Something hit the door. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw Tsukamoto Nobunaga lazily pushing open the door, with the long sword Diprajnaparamita hanging diagonally at his side. But in his right hand, he was dragging a man covered in blood. Jinguji Saikiro saw the man and frowned and asked, "Is this the prisoner you captured?" Tsukamoto Nobunaga looked at him lazily. "It's not enough to just kill people. We are facing a huge force. It would be great if we could get some information about them." Nobunaga looked down at Li Tianlong, the leader of the Yunzhou city, and said, "This guy is a leader. He should know a lot of information." Li Tianlong suddenly opened his eyes and shouted with his remaining strength, "Damn Japanese bastard. If you want to kill me, just do it." "I won't say a word." Tsukamoto Nobunaga frowned. He didn't understand what Li Tianlong was saying. At this time, the short-haired high school student who had been staying here to cook said with a smile, "There is a matching translation system on the combat uniform." Tsukamoto Nobunaga said, "I don't like wearing that thing. It will affect my speed of drawing the sword." 40 Minoba Satoru shrugged helplessly. "Let me do it." He stood up and walked to the weak Li Tianlong. "Don't even think about it." Li Tianlong stared at 40 Wu Chengwu and said in his most ferocious tone at the moment, but no matter how he looked at it, he looked incredibly weak. 40 Things walked up to him with a smile, not angry at all. "It doesn't matter. You will tell me?" Li Tianlong sneered, "Haha, you are dreaming." But his voice stopped abruptly, because 40 Things put his hands on both sides of his head. Li Tianlong's eyes rolled back, and the whole person became demented. A pair of empty hands stretched out from 40 Things' chest, and then inserted into Li Tianlong's head fiercely. Fengguan Yuanren smoked a cigarette outside. When he entered the door, he found that Li Tianlong's body fell to the ground, and he had lost consciousness. 40 Things pushed his glasses with a smile. "Boss, I have collected all the information about them. This time, we really made a big fuss." The smile on his mouth gradually became perverted, and he looked excited, like a middle school boy who had done something earth-shattering. "The entire Jiangnan district is now besieging us. They really want to kill us. I didn't expect that we could cause such a big commotion after escaping from the critical moment to here." Jinguji Saikiro looked at him with disgust. "This is not something to be happy about. It will only bring us unnecessary trouble." Jinguji Saikiro. 40 Mono ignored his advice and spread his hands. "But it's really cool, isn't it? Being targeted by one of the 6 major districts of China." Jinguji said in a deep voice, "If they are really irritated and do their best to deal with us, even with Mayumi, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape unscathed." 40 Mono suddenly made a face at Jinguji. "Don't worry, Uncle Jinguji. I have just confirmed this." His lenses reflected a strange and dim light. Of the 6 top-level investigation teams in the Jiangnan district, only 2 are left at the headquarters, and one has just lost a captain-level combat force. Now is our best chance. Dear viewers, it's not over yet. We'll upload next part soon. Please comment if you like this, and kindly subscribe. Thanks.